Welcome, everyone, to a Chiefs victory edition of 41 is the mic that we have not had a chance to get to do in a little while. This is Matt Derrick with Chiefs Digest, and alongside me, your co-host and jump ball enthusiast, Nick Jacobs. Nick, how are you doing?
I'm good. I didn't know that was what I'm enthusiastic about this time, but I'm completely good with it as long as you have a receiver that can battle to win that football.
Is it okay if it's a 5'8" running back?
I mean, it's gonna have to do right now. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire, if that's what he wants to do and jump out of the gym like that, then I mean, hey, we'll always have that one play that we can remember him by.
This was the Clyde Edwards-Helaire kind of rejuvenation game, Nick. I mean, it's been a while since we have seen Clyde have a performance like he did today.
Yeah, I call it the get paid game. So I mean, he's taking advantage of the opportunities and the snap counts to put enough good stuff on tape here towards the end of the year that he and his agent down the road can sell whatever team on, like, hey, this is who he is when he's utilized this way and gets in rhythm and gets the reps. And so I think that's kind of how you sell that down the road.
We, of course, are talking about Clyde after having a big performance against the Patriots in Week 15 for the Chiefs. What, I think should have been maybe a little bit more comfortable than a 27-17 victory, Nick. But, let's start with the offense, which has been under such a microscope of late. And obviously, Clyde was a big part of the spark today. What did you see? What stood out to you about the Chiefs' offensive performance today?
I really liked their opening drive against New England and the way they were going down the field. They looked like they're confident, they're in rhythm, and they had everything going. And then that pesky, if I remember correctly, I think it was a pesky penalty that that took them down a peg there, and then they had to try to settle for the field goal that ended up being missed. Poor Bucker, consecutively 62 in a row, and then that happens, and he's got to restart from scratch all over again. But no, I mean, like they looked effective out there. They looked confident out there. They were attacking. They kept the New England on their heels. I like the misdirection they had on the second drive to be able to go in and score that the way they did. And so, I mean, I thought the Chiefs collectively had a good game plan, minus, a couple of the turnovers. Outside of those, I mean, look, it's just they were able to overcome a couple things during it, with Mahomes being able to maneuver around in the pocket. The protection had some issues off the right side today. Trey Smith had some struggles there for a handful of series, and then they were blitzing heavily off that right side, and Mahomes was having to kind of move around more than I think he would have preferred, and some of the protection wasn't necessarily what you would have wanted it to be, but Mahomes made it work with Rice for the most part. A big play with Watson that down the field, their explosive plays, the creative screen, all that combined, like the Chiefs, they went back to some of their best hits that they had done in 2017, 2018, and part of 2019, and they're starting to pull from some of that part of the offense and starting to reuse that, and it works. It worked wonders against the Patriots.
Yeah, and that to me, I mean, yes, this is a 3-11 New England Patriots team. This is not the Patriots that you think of. But, after the struggles that they had defensively in the first half of the season, I mean, they've been really good in the second half. I mean, and, since the beginning of November, they hadn't given up more than 20 points in any one game. They've had some really good efforts. Schedule driven. Okay, yeah. I mean, I'll listen to that argument. But there's also no doubt that Bill Belichick gets up for games like this. And, and Patrick Mahomes talked about the fact that, he loves going up against Bill Belichick because he's got to be focused, because he knows he's going to see some different schemes, different looks than the Patriots usually do. And absolutely, I think the Patriots threw some things at them, but the Chiefs handled it really well. And that to me is an encouraging sign that, this is a defense that has been playing well of late. It was a defense that this was a big game for them, and it was a big game for their coach, and yet the Chiefs really handled things pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, for most of the drives that they had, I was pleasantly surprised and impressed with how effectively they moved the ball, how they really didn't have a lot of 3-and-outs for the most part. and just kind of the way the Chiefs were able to attack him in a variety of different ways. Because with New England and what they were doing, they were attacking between the numbers. They were trying to get Zappe in a rhythm and everything, but what he's comfortable throwing, and that's what Bill O'Brien was working on. And then Bill O'Brien didn't really try to expand it or get outside of his comfort zone until probably late second quarter, and then part of the third, and then that's when Zappe turned the football over to Willie Gay at that point, and then that's whenever the wheels fell off and his confidence was gone, and then Spagnuolo really started getting some good pressures and everything. So, but what I'm getting at there is, like, the Chiefs didn't have to go a certain path in play calling to get what they wanted to accomplish and to move the ball down the field. They had a wide variety. I was really impressed with that part of it. They were balanced for the most part, and I think those were all promising signs to see against a good Patriots front, more so than people realize, and against a great head coach like Bill Belichick. I know the Chiefs talked about it all week. Some people may not believe it because of their record. Their record is what it is because of the quarterback situation. Otherwise, that football team would be a lot better. They'd be playing at least 500 ball, if not better, and be fighting for a playoff spot if they had significantly better quarterback play. And, they could use some receivers and everything, but for the most part, they don't have the quarterback to make it work in New England right now.
There was really, I think, I guess you could maybe make the argument that the Chiefs had three things going for them today. Ground game wasn't really one of them. I mean, they did try to run the ball a little bit, and Clyde had one really nice run for 20 yards, but outside of that, the Edwards-Helaire and McKinnon went for 17 carries, 48 yards. Not a blistering performance, but enough to keep the defense honest. But Patrick Mahomes has a very good game. I mean, we can talk about the interceptions and the mistakes a little bit later, but we're just talking about things that went positively for now. Mahomes has a good game. Clyde had a great game out of the backfield catching the football, and another strong outing from Rashee Rice. 9 catches, 91 yards, 9 targets. Ball security needs to be a little bit more of a priority for Rashee. But, I mean, I don't think there's any mistaking here, Nick. I mean, especially what we've seen from Rashee over the last month of the season. He is head and shoulders the best receiver on this team right now, correct?
Yeah, it's been fun to watch him develop throughout the season and get to that comfort level from where he was in training camp to where he's at now, to where Patrick feels comfortable with him, and he kind of helps take some pressure off Travis Kelce at times, and even Justin Watson to a certain extent. And I know that sounds weird to say that together, but that's just where that journey and that road's taken the Chiefs this season in the offense. But yeah, I mean, Rice is your most reliable guy after Travis Kelce. And look, I mean, Clyde's always been a good back in terms of receiving. He's a good receiving back. Like, that's kind of where he shines. He may not have the burst that you want to be able to be, a home run threat on every single play, but I mean, he has good vision, and when you have blockers in front of him, he'll make you pay and he'll make it work, just like he did on that screen pass last week and again this week. So, I mean, there's certain ways that you can build you can build him up and build his confidence, get him in his own rhythm and everything. But I mean, McKinnon, obviously had the touchdown, but also got injured. And then later, after he came back out there, I saw him on special teams at one point. I was like, why is he on special teams? He's one of your best weapons. Like, stop. He doesn't need to be on special teams. That's what you got. That's what you got Prince for. That's why you brought Prince up. There's no reason for McKinnon to be on special teams right now, especially after he, looked like he had bumped up a little bit or bruised there after that touchdown. So, I mean, that one I didn't understand. But, yeah, I mean, look, for Travis Kelce didn't have one of those dominant days. But guess what? He's not going to, because that's Bill Belichick's mission, is to take that away every single time. So Kelce was going to have a tough day, because that's the level of respect that Bill has for him. And Bill knew the only path for him to win is to try to make Mahomes uncomfortable with the blitzes and attack him at certain times when he knew the backs were going to release, and then add in, taking away Kelce. And then he's like, hey, if Rice beats us, Rice beats us. And the Chiefs were able to kind of use a combination of McKinnon, Rashee Rice, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire to kind of make up the difference and kind of essentially form, 1 to 2 other potential receiving threats. And then that's how the Chiefs made it work and were able to come away with a win, even if they may, in my opinion, throttled back there towards the end Because if the Chiefs wanted to hang 42 on the Patriots today, they could have if they really really wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, and especially, as far as how the end of the game unfolded, I mean, the Chiefs definitely, went into turtle mode there, just running off the last couple of minutes of the game. Um, Andy Reid had no interest whatsoever in putting any more points up on Bill Belichick than he needed to. And I think that just goes to the respect that those two guys have for each other. But we were talking before the podcast as well. I mean, Bill Belichick had it looked like quite a few words for not only Andy Reid, but Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce. This had a feeling to it, didn't it, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, after like the 2018 AFC Championship game, I don't remember seeing him linger like that to make his mission to at least speak to all of them or recognize all of them in the way that he did after this game. And I just think that Bill is at a point in his life and career to where he's going to start making some decisions one way or another to where I think what may be going down is bigger than just New England. Like I think he's he's in his mid to late 70s right now in that ballpark. So he's accomplished what he needs to in the NFL. It's just a matter of, is there one more time? Does he want to go chase that career record and do that? Or is he kind of content with what he's accomplished and the dynasty that he was able to build for 2 decades with Tom Brady? I mean, that's going to stand the test of time in modern era free agency, that he was able to do that and be able to effectively do that for as long as he did.
Yeah, and there is no coach, I don't think, in the NFL who is much of a student of the game and the history of the game as much as Bill Belichick. And he also obviously respects the heck out of Andy Reid and the way that Patrick Mahomes and the way Travis Kelce plays. So, I mean, those are two guys that would fit right in on a Bill Belichick team. So right. If this is the last rodeo for Bill Belichick, he's probably, you have to think, just acknowledging that this might be the last time, whether it is he's got more years in him or not. Every game, against Mahomes and Kelce could be the last time that he sees them. And clearly, whenever Belichick and Andy Reid get together, it's always been a historic matchup. And this one, if I'm not mistaken, Nick, I think it's the only time the two coaches with more than 250 wins have ever faced each other. I mean, those two have counted for a lot more wins than any other coaches who have ever gone up against each other at this point in their careers.
Yeah, I think Mitch Holthus said a couple times this week that the only one that came close to it was whenever Landry and I want to say Shula playing against each other in 1987.
Yep.
I think that's what that one was. So, I mean, like, yeah, no, it was like you said, it was a historic moment. You got to see it. You got to see a lot that, like, you kind of know it's one of those lingering moments that you're seeing history and you appreciate the history, even if the Patriots aren't the Patriots of old, but just kind of, like competitively for Mahomes and Andy and Travis to kind of compete against Bill Belichick one more time. Like, that was the game within the game itself.
Well, we talked about the Chiefs offensively, and we talked about a lot of things that went right, Nick, but as much as, and this comes into the conversation of what have we really learned about the Chiefs today, and I've been asked that, earlier today. I mean, I don't know if I can say I learned a whole lot about the Chiefs offensively, because even though it was a better day, they scored 27 points, Mahomes 305 passing, Rice the big day, Edwards-Helaire a nice day. They also still had some penalties. They still had turnovers. They still had a drop that was disastrous. I mean, this and today we got, the Terminator of kickers, Harrison Butker, with a missed field goal. I mean, definitely not gonna lay the pitchforks on Harrison Butker, because the guy has had an absolutely amazing season. But Nick, can this team just get out of its own way every once in a while?
Yeah, I mean, the first part, little attack on that one is, I mean, the Chiefs offense showed various levels of progress and how they were able to move in the variety they showed, like I talked about earlier. So that's the encouragement you can take from that. There are obviously some frustration and protection that you're I'm personally going to keep an eye on in the weeks ahead in terms of the right side and how they were performing. And then one more. So I'm continuing to watch him. Not He's a rookie. He's going to take his lumps. He's not going to be perfect on every single play. I'm just keeping an eye on how he develops week to week, and whenever opponents get more tape of him, how is he responding to that? How is he balancing that? Are they getting the better of him more and more in pass pro, or is he still holding his own? And those are kind of questions, because run blocking wise, I'm not worried about him. It's purely pass protection and where his hand placement's going to be at, how he's doing on his kick step. Just that portion of it's kind of what I want to get answered. And he's getting a lot of snaps that are going to help the Chiefs answer what they need to do at left tackle down the road here, whether it's with Donovan Smith or, what they may do there, or if it's Wanya, or if the solution at left tackle isn't on the roster yet. When you're hoping that Wanya gives you that answer that you're wanting, like, yeah, no, he can be the left tackle next year. So you can just worry about receiver and, tight end and maybe running back if you need to. So that's the part that I'll be keeping tabs on. But yeah, no, I mean, defensively, I mean, Mike Edwards gave up that touchdown again today, like he did last week against Cook, and against Cook, the running back, while he's replacing Brian Cook, safety. And so, I mean, not having Brian Cook out there, that play went a little bit differently than it would have other times. So yeah, I mean, there's a little hiccup there, and Cook can get healthy and come back. You're hoping that happens. But yeah, no, I mean, like, for the most part, like, there's, yeah, I just, I don't know. I think there's a lot of promise there for the Chiefs, and I don't know. We'll see how things transpire. But no, there's certain grains of salt that I'll take with it, to where with the Chiefs, I like I like some of the things I saw, but I also know that they're playing Bailey Zappi. That's the long scenic way to get to it, and I apologize.
Absolutely fair. And I will give the Chiefs offense a little credit here. There were only 2 penalties today. And one of them I am not blaming on Rashee Rice. I don't believe that was offensive pass interference on Rashee Rice.
Yeah, no.
You're pretty much on the same page there.
Yeah, that's 2 guys that were accidentally ran into each other. That wouldn't no PI.
That should have been a no call either way, but it happens. Yes, Jawan Taylor gets a legitimate false start, and that's Jawan Taylor for you. But that did not torpedo a drive this time. Yeah, the Rice penalty did hold the Chiefs to a field goal try on that drive, and he didn't get the points. But like I said, I'm not blaming that on Rashee Rice. Now, the Kadarius Toney drop is the one thing that we have to close the buttonhole on before moving on to the rest of it, because
yeah,
that was a bad one, Nick.
Yeah, and I can't remember if he had any other drops during the game too, but I know that was the one that let the Patriots back into the game. And kind of the concern you have is, I'm going to come out and say it bluntly, like, the attention to detail is not there. Like, it continues to show week after week, and there were still times when I'd watch how he'd line up, and I'm like, he didn't check. He still didn't check. Like he'd point out, and then he didn't check. And I'm like, man, after what happened last week, I would be nervous and checking every single time. And he just nonchalantly just pointed the finger and went on about his way. And I'm like, man, with what happened last week, you can't leave any stone unturned. And then having the bobble like he did that ended up turning into an interception. Like, you can tell Mahomes obviously wasn't thrilled about the result of that play and allowing the Patriots back into that. And when you look at that in the grand scheme of it, like, say that's a playoff game, that may be the difference right there. That might be the play that got it. And that's 2 weeks in a row, whether it was the simply not paying attention to detail, and correctly pointing and double checking, not only pointing, but double checking that the ref, the official gives you the thumbs up or a pat on the leg or whatever, and then having this happen and a couple other things. I'm just like, look, I mean, you either want to pay attention to detail or you don't. And if that's not a capability, then that's unfortunate. But I mean, like it's gonna cost you the worst time if this is the trend that continues. You hope that trend doesn't continue. Athletically, he's got some good speed, he's got good promise, and that's what you can keep talking yourself into. But if they're still seeing those inconsistencies in practice week after week, and it kind of rears its ugly head at various points in the next handful of games, I'm very intrigued to see what road the Chiefs go down from a wide receiver perspective. Because I mean, look, he's a good returner, and I mean, I think he gives you promise out of the backfield as a kind of a running back pass catching threat. But it's been a struggle all year at receiver, and between the injuries and the inconsistencies, the drops, the lack of attention to detail on some of the finer points, it's just it's a frustrating point where you're kind of deciding between the potential you want to talk yourself into and what he has ceiling wise available versus what is he willing to work towards.
Yeah, and obviously there was some very eerie similarities as far as that throw and drop today that turns into a turnover to what happened against Detroit. I mean, it was a very similar type throw and situation. So yeah, I mean, when the same thing keeps happening over and over again, and this is one of my cliches that I lean on, Nick, but a football player is oftentimes what the back of his football card says that he is. And at this point, the Kadarius Toney that we saw at the end of last year was kind of a role player who could come in and give you a handful of snaps and give you a good production and maybe a limited role is not necessarily the bulk of what he's put on film. I mean, now we're seeing the same things that got him kind of run out of New York in the first place last year. There was drops. It was complaints about the little details and just paying attention to things. That's what got him traded and made him available. So at this point, I mean, it is starting to be what he is. So, and if you're Andy Reid, you're this coaching staff, how do you fix it? Well, I mean, yes, you've got Justin Ross coming back this week, but I don't think that's the fix. I mean, more receivers, I'm not sure is the solution to the Chiefs' problem. But and I mentioned this when we were talking earlier on Sunday Sound Off on KSHB 41. But I mean, to me, this is just going to be just like a college basketball coach in March. It's time to shorten your bench and just go with the guys that you trust. And right now, that looks like Rashee Rice, a lot of Justin Watson, and a little bit of MVS, a little bit of Sky Moore if he's healthy, maybe a little Richie James. That's about it.
Yeah, no, you're not going to be able to keep messing around on it and keep giving everybody a variety. You're not gonna be able to do a variety show anymore. You're gonna have to. These are the guys that they're doing it with, and this is who we're gonna have get better and improve. And this is just how you're gonna have to operate. I mean, I know I get a lot of questions about, hey, should the Chiefs sign this person to the practice squad? Should Powell be brought up? Should Justin Ross be brought up? McCole Hardman when he comes back? How are they going to fit them all in here? Here's the reality. Kadarius Toney and McCole Hardman are kind of the same thing right now. They're gadget guys. You're just deciding which gadget guy do you trust more, because McCole Hardman has a little bit better speed, but they're both gadget guys. And Richie James is is essentially the returner, but Kadarius Toney gives you more as a returner in terms of athletic ability. It's just a matter of, can he stay healthy? Is he going to hold on to the football, or is his confidence pretty rattled like it was for Sky Moore early on last year? Sky Moore, for the most part, if you use him kind of as a running back, like I believe he was, I want to say he's running back in high school. I'd have to double check later, but using him in the flats and kind of having him against linebackers, that's kind of his wheelhouse in this Chiefs offense, along with Kadarius Toney. You got two guys that are really more working the flats type guys that didn't really help your offense, but with those are kind of what those guys are and what their skill sets are. Justin Ross, it takes him a while to wind up. So, I mean, you're having him run 10, 15, 20-yard level routes before he gets to top-end speed. So if you have him run a slant, it's going to have to be 10 to 15 yards before Mahomes can get it there. And Does Mahomes want to throw those contested passes? And how's their chemistry since he's been gone for, 6 to 8 weeks? That's going to take time to build up. So it, even though he was there for training camp and all that type of stuff, like, that's kind of, you got to rebuild that thing from scratch for the most part. So it's, all of it collectively. I know everybody wants to find a solution and that this fix for the offense, but I think you said it best. Creating that bench is where shortening it is. That's going to be the only thing that's going to create the rhythm that you're looking for.
Yeah, and you make a great point about just the layoff, because not only, if you got Justin Ross coming off 8-week absence essentially, Kadarius Toney, a lot of his problems are a result of the fact that he didn't have a training camp. I mean, he missed those 6 weeks. It was important. Now you've got McCole Hardman, who's going to be missing a period of time. If and when he comes back, he's going to be rusty. Richie James was gone for 8 weeks. I mean, now when you're talking about receivers who have been healthy the entire season, you don't have a lot of guys to point to. I mean, that's been continuity has been kind of a part of the problem with this team, and that's why it comes down. I mean, it's Mahomes is going to throw to the guys that he trusts, and based on today's performance, he trusts Rashee Rice. He obviously trusts Travis Kelce. He trusts Justin Watson. He's going to trust Noah Gray for the 2 or 3 catches that he gets every game. But other than that, I mean, I think that's about it.
I don't think you're wrong, Matt. I don't think you're wrong, but I think he's given everybody the opportunities to be able to prove him wrong and try to get him some catches. And then when he gets burned by it, then he kind of goes back into, all right, well, I'm going back into that lane. I tried to venture out and take the scenic route on exit 45. Didn't work out for me. So we're going to go right back to I-435 and stay on there.
That's exactly what you do. And you go with the guys you trust. And I tell you what, Nick, this is my segue here. There's a lot of guys to trust on defense right now.
Who do you want to start with? Who do you trust the most, Matt?
I tell you what, it's a long list, but I tell you, L'Jarius Sneed had once again a really good game. The very physical game. I mean, L'Jarius is obviously a very physical player, but today he laid the lumber more than a few times.
Yeah, he did. Justin Reed did. I mean, they both had some very physical tackles. They were not playing around today. They laid the wood a couple of times. I'm like, oh, all right, wow, okay, that was a little thunder right there. So yeah, no, I mean, look, the pass rush looked good. I mean, the blitzes that Spagnuolo brought kept Zappe off balance after he got into rhythm there for a little bit. Spagnuolo's like, all right, we're done with this, and then he brought that out, and then Zappe was rattled at that point, and that was kind of the end of that. And they kept the run game in check after a couple series when they got into rhythm. So yeah, I mean, collectively, the only person that I kind of felt like was having a little bit of struggles was Mike Edwards on, whenever he's having to play that when he can be a ball hawk and just kind of be the third safety, that's where he shines. When he's having to kind of take over Brian Cook's role and really have to kind of read and kind of cover deep and make sure nobody gets past him, that's when he starts to have a little bit of the struggles to where he can't be attacking instinctive, kind of like a Marcus Peters was early in his career. That's really more where Mike really shines. So the fact that he can't play that to a certain extent, that he kind of hampers and takes away a little piece of his ability. But look, Tranquil did great. Willie Gay made a couple plays. Nick Bolton had a solid day. So I mean, yeah, defensively they did what they're supposed to do. And Chiefs offensively, they scored 27 total. As you and I talked about before, 24 or more gets the job done. And the Chiefs were able to do that, and the defense held them to 17. So, I mean, I know that people are going to look at the record and kind of downplay a lot of stuff, but at the end of the day, the Chiefs, for the most part, improved on the things that they needed to, regardless of the opponent they're facing. So you take those things and you try to clip away a little bit more against the Raiders, some of those turnovers, some of those drops, and take those away and challenge them to be more efficient on a couple more of those drives. And then you challenge the defense to be a little bit more physical in the run game if they go against Josh Jacobs next week. So you just take all those little pieces of it, and you kind of challenge them to kind of up it even more. But I mean, hey, the Raiders hung 63 last week. So I mean, people can, obviously I know they hung zero 4 days before that, but you just kind of take the bits and pieces from both games, put them together, and come away with a promising win on Nickelodeon. Okay.
Oh, we can only hope that there will be lots of slime in the end zone on Christmas Day on Nickelodeon
For the Chiefs, yes.
for the Chiefs. Yes. Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I think certainly that and you look at like the day that Hunter Henry had. I mean, that's good indication right there of just the Patriots' second game in a row that I think teams were looking for. Hey, where would Brian Cook usually be? Let's attack that zone. Let's go after Mike Edwards. And once again, I mean, you're right. I mean, and the same thing kind of happened last week against Buffalo. Buffalo did the exact same thing. And once Steve Spagnuolo, saw that and figured out, where the soft spot was, they tightened it up and it kind of went away. And yeah, it's Bailey Zappi, but Chiefs held the Patriots to 2 of 12 on third down, 154 yards passing, just 206 yards of offense. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do to Bailey Zappi. I mean, at least they did that. The other thing that stood out to me about this, is that you did not see or hear Chris Jones's name much. And that was not Chris Jones's fault because I think for the most part, Chris Jones might have had a record set today for most holds against him because there were more than a couple of times, Nick, that I saw two guys holding him at once.
Yeah, no, the Patriots weren't going to let him beat him, and if they had to hold him, that was fine. If they had to put like one of those parking boots when they want to leave your car where it's at, they're going to do that to him. And then like I put out on social media there on that screen pass when the guy was yanking his shoulder pad, turned Chris completely around, he's yanking his shoulder pads. I was like, oh, that's cool. They're like, I mean, I wouldn't try to force a jersey swap during the middle of a screen pass on the play, but I mean, that's what the left guard wanted to do. So, I mean, all right then, And so, I mean, I'm not upset. Somebody on social wanted to comment and talk about, complaining about calls and everything. And I'm like, look, yes, there was some stuff the crews are going to let slide for the next weeks ahead because the Chiefs voiced their opinion about how some of their colleagues did. So that's going to happen. Like, and I get that. But I mean, like when a guy's having a jersey swap right there, that is, a one-way acceptance on that one or that desire like that. That was one. Yes, you probably should have called, but no, for the most part, it. Yeah, I mean, Andy and Patrick, they got to hurt their checkbooks this week a little bit. Maybe you have to, rein back on a little bit of the Christmas shopping. Maybe, I don't know, but no, yeah, the Patriots are going to do whatever they had to do. They're like, hey, we're already 3-10 anyway, so who cares? It's not going to derail us.
I mean, I get that the NFL wants to protect its officials, and I know it's all about, we'll get some integrity of the game nonsense and blah, blah, blah. But I mean, Andy Reid is like one of the most mild-mannered of coaches when it comes to post-game press conferences. I mean, Andy's he's a great coach to cover and all these things, but doesn't always necessarily give us the best stuff. This guy, Nick, got fined $100,000 because he said the officiating was a bit embarrassing twice. A bit embarrassing. I mean, if I was called a bit embarrassing at work, that would be a compliment on most days for me, Nick.
Oh. Well, I'm glad you didn't get fined $100,000 for it, and that nobody else has either.
I mean, and I don't think Travis Kelce once said that this same officiating crew, Carl Jeffers, shouldn't even be working at a freaking Foot Locker. And Travis didn't get fined $100,000. But
yeah, part of me kind of thinks they wanted to set an example with Patrick and Andy. And that was what they're going to do because it was in prime. It was in one of the prime windows of it, and the league didn't like that and everything. But at the end of the day, I think Andy got his message across, and I think that he's going to have a lot of people in his corner when it comes to the competition committee down the road. I think Andy was playing the long game on what they're doing with that one, and some of those things I think are going to be brought up privately in the competition committee. but he needed this opportunity to create icebreakers for it. So, it could be a nice little conversation piece or topic coming up when they have those meetings.
My last jab at the NFL this week will be to point out that when they moved the Philadelphia and Seattle from the 3:25 window on Sunday to Monday night and flopped the Patriots Chiefs game, they could have moved it to 3:25, so it would have been at the same time. So part of the country would have gotten Patriots Chiefs, and the rest would have gotten Cowboys and Buffalo. But no, they moved Chiefs Patriots to noon so that all of America could see Dallas get absolutely pantsed by the Buffalo Bills today. So,
well, here's the other thing I'll say to that part of that. If you saw the broadcast that they had for the Chiefs Patriots game, wasn't exactly the smoothest. A lot of issues on replays. So you got to put your best dress out there at 3:25. So if that's your A team in terms of production truck, and obviously with Olsen and the crew and Andrews and all of them, then I get why you're like, hey, we want to make this one stand alone because it's Cowboys, it's got the New York market, and that's got our best production crew combined on that. Because I'll say this, you see a stark difference between what Fox Sports production does versus what CBS Sports does, even with their second, third, fourth, and fifth teams. There's a very big difference between 1, 2, and 3 at Fox Sports versus 1 through 4 at CBS Sports. And that's a compliment.
And I said that was my final beef. I guess here's my really final beef, Nick.
Okay, all right.
Since I wasn't traveling this week, so I got to watch the whole Fox presentation there.
Yeah.
Wow, Rob Gronkowski was a great tight end, but as a studio commentator, yikes.
He tries his best. So I mean,
he scores well on the try hard chart.
Yeah,
I mean, there's no doubt about that. But yikes.
Are you talking about the forced promos they had him do in between before halftime and after? After you just talking about some of the analysis during the in between before halftime?
That's part of the business. That I'm okay with. There was a little bit too much talk about Derrick McKinnon.
But, well, I mean, in all fairness, Gronk has taken a lot of hits, so
Unfortunately, very, very true. Well, I think we've squeezed every drop that we can out of Chiefs Patriots. 27-17, Chiefs win this one. They are back on the winning side of things, 9-5, 2-game lead in the AFC West with 3 games to play. Win next week against the Raiders, or I believe even a Denver loss next Sunday will give the Chiefs the AFC West division title. So you got that going for you, Nick.
Hey, just go out there and win it. Go out there and handle business. Know that this is the prize that locks you in for the playoff, and make that your theme throughout the week, that this is what punches your playoff ticket, and go out and have an even better performance than what you did against New England. Tighten up what you need to on offense, and don't play around. Don't just pretend you're not on Nickelodeon for part of it. Okay, take this as serious business, and just handle what needs to be handled. Punch the playoff ticket. Start treating. Here's what I'll say about the Bills and what they did against the Cowboys. The Cowboys had an emotional letdown coming off that Philly game, and you could see it by the way they were playing. They were pretty emotionally exhausted from what the performance they put in against the Eagles, and they were not even coming close to matching Buffalo's tempo out there and their mentality and their backs against the wall. And so that's kind of what I want to see from the Chiefs here in the weeks ahead. Start treating each week like this is the playoffs and this is what you're having to do, and get into that mindset and that mentality right now, and keep doing that for the next 3 games, because you really need to get yourself prepped for when that comes, and not try to turn the switch then. Turn the switch this week and start cranking it up.
Yeah, and the Chiefs, when they do take the field on Christmas Day at noon, they could know some good things. I mean, the Broncos play the Patriots Sunday night. The Cowboys and the Dolphins are on Sunday afternoon. I mean, if the Cowboys win that game and a bounce back, then suddenly Chiefs, they win. They would be the 2 seed in the AFC playoff picture. And then the Ravens play Christmas night, so you won't know them. But they are playing the 49ers. So Chiefs beat the Raiders. You would definitely be a 49ers fan on Christmas night. A lot of football next weekend, Nick, over a few days. So it should be a lot of fun. Hopefully everybody has a very safe weekend until we talk to you. We'll find some time over the holiday, Nick, to recap that Raiders game and unopen all of our presents for each other.
Yeah, and don't worry, I'll be looking festive then too. I just need all the stuff to come in that I ordered.
Oh, I can't wait now.
I'll have it on the podcast if I do. I promise.
Oh, then you will definitely have to tune into the video for that one. Any parting words, Nick?
Until next time, I bid you adieu.
That says it all for me. Thanks, everybody. We will catch you next week after Raiders and Chiefs on Christmas Day. Have a good one.